Hello everyone, my name is Christian. Welcome back to my hobby blog. Today I'm very excited to be reviewing probably my favorite book of the series from Malazan, the Hounds, Book 8 of Malazan, Book of the Fallen. I read this after reading Return of the Crimson God. If you haven't seen that review and have read the book also, please go see that. I had a lot of fun reviewing it, but today I'm going to be talking about Book 8. I just finished it yesterday, and I thought about doing a review. Actually, I finished it 2 nights ago, around it was past midnight. So right when I finished, I kind of just sat alone, quietly, in the dark, and just thought about the book. And I was just really kind of blown away by the ending of it. This will be full spoilers for the book, so I do want to just jump right in because there's just so much to talk about. But just to give a few non-spoiler points, I think this has been the easiest book to read in the series. I really feel as if Steven Erikson finally just kind of started giving all the info that we needed, and because I would like to think I've been paying a lot of attention, I feel like I understood everything that was going on. Sure, there were some things where I was like, what's going on here? But I have trust that I will eventually know exactly what's going on. I don't expect everything to be answered in this book. We still have 2 more books after this. But I really thought this was the easiest book ever in the series, aside from Dead House Gates. But Dead House Gates was just a preference to what I was looking for in the Malazan Empire. But it was just so fun to return to the characters that we haven't seen since, I want to say, book 3. You have Krupp, you have Murillo, who I think just is amazing in this book compared to book 1. You also get a lot of kind of newer characters that we've been meeting along the way. You get Casa Orlong, and his story continues to be a highlight for me. I think his character development since book 4, it just has, well, technically since book 2, because he was secretly Casa Orlong by the name of Toblakai, but he just has such a fascinating character journey going on in these books, and this book especially. You know him really well, you know most of these characters really well, and you just get sort of more of the same of what he's been doing, but you see a lot more compassion and sort of moments where characters are shocked by the decisions that he makes, because he is just a force to be reckoned with. And I just love that. I just love that aspect of his character. And we also get a lot of great returns to some things that we haven't seen since, I think, book 1, which has been Dragnipur, the realm of Dragnipur, the sword that Anamander Rake is using. And I just absolutely loved everything with that. Every time we were in that realm, I did not want to leave it. I think that was the best sections of this book were regarding Dragnipur, and especially what ends up at the end. I'm trying to keep it as non-spoiler as I can, but Anamander Rake, I felt, was just amazing in this book as well. I don't know if he's my favorite character of this book, but he's up there. I would also say, Casa is up there as one of the best for this book. I really enjoyed the characters of Torvald Well, and then Malik Well, and Torvald Nam and Ralik Nam. I got all these names stuck in my head. I'm trying to keep them straight. But the brothers was just amazing, and everything surrounding the characters of Harlow and Snell and that entire kind of prison camp. I really enjoyed those sections as well. It was nice to kind of get a new POV that was sort of covering this aspect of kind of the plot line, because that entire arc is very important to our main characters who we already know. And I just really enjoyed reading those sections because I knew they were all going to converge. I mean, that's just a continuing theme that Steven Erikson and also Cam Esselmont is doing in the books is this idea of convergence. And I knew that we were going to get one of the greatest convergences in this novel. And I would also say another really favorite part of this series before I go into spoilers, because I almost went right into the ending of this book. But one final point is that I really, really loved the sections with the Trigal Trade Guild. I loved seeing them travel not the ways, but the Warrens. And it was just really fun, kind of that first time that we go through Hood's realm. And there's just millions of just zombies, demons, just everything. It's just like, trying to get onto this wagon and they're going through and all of our characters are holding on to dear life. Like, I just really love those sections. Like, this is the shit that I live for in fantasy. And this book just delivered on every count. And I said before that I think book 2 and 5 are definitely my top 2 favorites, but I'm getting to the point now where I think book 8, Toll the Hounds, has replaced Deadhouse Gates. And that is such a high, standard to meet. And I'm so surprised that this book surpassed Deadhouse Gates, because I think I said Midnight Tides is my favorite in my ranking, or I said Deadhouse Gates. It was one or the other, but I was blown away by all of the different world building that we got in this book. We know all these factions at this point, so now we really get to see some of these pay off, and we get to see a lot of these characters kind of assume new roles. I was really hoping we would get more with the Deck of Dragons. We got a little bit of that towards the end, but I read on the back of book 9, Dust of Dreams, but the Deck of Dragons is mentioned, I think, twice, so that should satisfy my kind of wants with that. But yeah, everything with the Trigal Trade Guild, I just love that. Like, that was the first kind of moment in this book that I really started to enjoy, because part 1, if you have seen my TBR kind of for the month of August, I slightly reviewed part 1 of Toll the Hounds, where I basically said I felt like I was slogging through it because I didn't really care for any of these characters. We have this character named Indus Salon, who I really enjoyed in this book, but that was really the only newer character that I enjoyed. Cotillion and Shadow Throne, I'm still half and half on how I think of them. Some chapters I don't care for them, but some chapters they'll say something, and then my interest is piqued again. But part 2 is when I really started to enjoy this book, and I believe that's when the Trigal Trade Guild goes through Hood's Warren, and it is just, my god, I love that so much. But to go on to full book spoilers now, as I had mentioned in my TBR video, or I think in my Crimson God review, I can't remember, but I had mentioned that I had an aspect of the ending spoiled for me, and that has to do with the implosion or the explosion of the moon, because I was on book 2, I want to say, and I was involved in the 10 Very Big Books Discord, and I was in the non-spoiler section, just kind of chatting with people. I was talking a little bit how I wanted to get Dragniper actually on my arm as a tattoo, because on my, you can't, I'm trying to, okay, so that is Aragorn's sword from Lord of the Rings. The name is escaping me right now, but I got that tattooed on my right arm, and I want to get another sword tattooed on my other arm. And ever since I started book 1, I was like, I want Dragniper, on my arm. And so I've been sort of waiting for more Dragniper in the series, and to find out that, and if I understand this correctly, it doesn't say it outright, but I think it's Anomander Rake who basically sacrifices the moon with Dragniper and implodes it, basically. They mention that like a comet or something hit the moon, and just went right through it. And I was very curious about that because where did that come from? And then later in that chapter, towards the end, they mentioned that Animander Rake was sort of responsible for the moon exploding. And I was very kind of confused by that section. I wish I did not know that spoiler whatsoever, but it wasn't really treated as a big event in this book. It's just sort of mentioned offhand in the beginning of kind of the final few chapters, where they're like, the moon hasn't risen yet, the moon hasn't risen yet, where's the moon? And then as night goes by, they slowly look up and they see the moon just in pieces, just spreading through space. And I love that description. I loved everything with the ending, especially with Hood showing up. Oh my god, that was the best. I absolutely love the ending to this book, but I was really disappointed being in that Discord, and it actually made me leave immediately because I said, okay, I guess even the non-spoiler sections are not safe for me, because I had been spoiled on a Wheel of Time spoiler when I joined a similar subreddit for that with the podcast, and somebody, again, in the non-spoiler section spoiled the ending of, well, not the ending, but a big character moment in Book 12 in regards to a certain Aes Sedai, and I was really, really kind of hurt by that because I hate spoilers. I love going into things completely blind as much as I can, and that was the only spoiler that I got for this entire series. I, again, have tried to read this series back in 2013 when Crippled God came out. I believe that was the year it came out. And I got halfway through book 1 and I gave up. I don't know why. I was enjoying it, is what I remember. But in that decade or so until I started Malazan last year, I think I started it early 23, I was really just happy that, everyone was being so careful on the internet, at least. I mean, there's maybe not as many readers of Malazan as there is the Wheel of Time, but just with how big all these different events are, you would think that I would have been spoiled, because I get spoiled on every series that I read. In a small way, usually, aside from the Wheel of Time, as I had mentioned. But this particular spoiler that I got, ever since book 2, the entire time I was like trying to theorize and piece together how the moon was exploding. And the only thing that I thought of was that Dragnipur had to be involved, because people were telling me it's a bad idea to get my arm tattooed with Dragnipur because of future spoilers and stuff like that. And I said, oh my gosh, like, how does, Dragnipur, have this sort of reputation? And I still think I'm going to tattoo it on my arm because it's the coolest sword ever in fantasy, I believe, in my opinion. But I was just really bummed out that there wasn't really more to do with that plot point in this book, because just knowing that the moon explodes is like 90% of it. Some of it has to do with the comet or meteor or whatever hits it, but that's just a detail to sort of more explain why or how the moon explodes. I was even thinking about it now and talking about it, I'm not filled with rage or anything like that. I don't feel that strongly about it, but this book would have just been like, it would have blown my mind not knowing that the moon explodes this book. So I don't want to go on too much longer about it, but that's sort of my feelings on that. Anybody who's in that Discord, do better, I guess. I don't want to lump everybody together and say like they're all bad, but whoever spoiled that to me, I curse the name. I don't know who they are. I don't know the name, so I'm just going to move on with my life, and I have 0 spoilers for the rest of the series, so I would like to keep it that way as best as I can. When I finish doing the recording, I'm actually reading Dune Messiah. I meant to have that on hand so I could show it, but I'm about halfway done with that book. I'm taking a break from Malazan, just, letting my feelings sort of cement itself and let me process it. But another thing that I really enjoy about this book is the ending, of course, as I've been sort of skirting around because of the spoiler I got. But I loved sort of having Darujhistan be the location the entire book. And I knew that we were going to have a big convergence at Darujhistan and that the moon would explode. So I was able to predict a lot of what happened just based off of those details, knowing that Steven Erikson had mentioned on 10 Very Big Books. I think in book 2, even book 1, the interview with him, how Krupp was basically the main POV for book 8, and I wish I didn't hear that either, because I had an expectation that the entire book would be from the POV of Krupp, which I realize now it was a really stupid assumption, or expectation, but I really thought we would get all of the explanations we needed for the series and everything that's been going on, the overarching story, explained through Krupp. And this goes along to one of my theories that I had about Krupp since book 1 or 2, and I haven't really had a chance to talk about it because this is the first Malazan Book of the Fallen review that I'm doing. I did do the novels of the Malazan Empire first with Crimson God, but I had a theory that Krupp was actually one of the Elder Gods. And this entire book, I was waiting for that moment. Because we have this moment in Book 3, Memories of Ice, where he stands against Kaladin Brood. And he is not affected whatsoever by his magic that he does, or by his hammer that he slams down on the ground, and he basically tears a mountain in half. Which is very reminiscent of the Mahabharat, because I've been reading through that, and there's a moment where a character does something similar to a character named Jarasamda, and a mountain splits in half, but it's Mount Himalaya, which is really fascinating. I never really connected those two, but I do know that Steven Erikson's a big fan of the Mahabharat, so fun little connection I just made. But I thought because Krupp was able to stand up to Kaladin Brood and never really be threatened by anybody ever, I thought he was one of the Elder Gods, and I don't know if it's revealed yet, so don't come in my comments and say, oh yeah, it's explained in book 9. I'll get there this week, so please don't say anything about future books. I'm already pissed off about spoilers. But I really thought that this book would be kind of the moment where we finally get to understand who Krupp is, what's going on, in his head, because we don't get really any not interviews, but point of views from his POV. So I was really kind of like hoping for that, some type of reveal like that. But I understand there's 2 more books, and everything's sort of swirling around Krupp this book for the most part. Not as much as I thought it would be, because I thought he would be kind of the one who blew up the moon. That was another of my theories, and why I assumed he was an Elder God, because I was like, well, it's either Dragonaper or Krupp who explodes the moon, is basically what I've been trying to think, or figure out which one is more likely, since I heard the spoiler on book 2. So yeah, other stuff about the ending was incredible. I loved the moment with Harlow and the piece of shit other kid, not Snell. Snell was dealt with, but the kind of work driver guy, Harlow escapes with a friend of his that he had made at the camp, and they get out of there. They go down a big cliff, and the guy falls to his death, but not before we sort of get a lot of kind of back and forth with him and Harlow, where we realize just how, I don't know what the word is, but I just loved everything with that. But I thought that was a really powerful scene. Harlow is a character I was rooting for the entire book, and I'm so happy that he kind of got back to his mother, who ends up being Stani Maracus. I think that's her name. I was really surprised by that, because Stani was a character who I believe was raped early in the books, in book 1 or 3 or 2 and 3. I don't remember exactly what book she was in, but I recall that she was raped, so this kid may have been, because he's about 5 years old, I believe. Yeah, 5 years old. So it's been about 5 years since the series began, if I'm judging it right. You can correct me on this. Please do so. So I was really fascinated by that reveal because the entire book, his character arc is all about not being loved by his parents because his brother is just sort of the guy who's taking care of his brother, and he tries to kill Hollow right in the beginning in part 1. And this was the point of views that I actually did not mind reading in part 1. I don't even remember what the POVs that I did not like were. But Hollow is almost killed in the beginning, and he's rescued, I guess, because he works in a kind of slave camp for the rest of the book. He is rescued by a carriage driver who ends up being pretty important in this book because later in this book, people are looking for Hollow. Murillo is looking for him and finds out that he's at this camp, so he rides out and is like, I'm gonna kill him. I'm gonna kill, this taskmaster and rescue Hollow. If I can't buy him, then I'll kill him, I believe is what his thought process was. And he shows up and he's like, yeah, let's duel. And Murillo is killed. And I was really disappointed by that because I was really enjoying his character. He was one of my favorites in book 1. And of course, this is called Malazan Book of the Fallen. The book series is all about the Fallen, so I wasn't, too angry that he was killed off. But I was pretty sad that he got killed off right when I really felt like we were approaching like a really great climax for his character, and then he was killed. So I was really disappointed by that, but I understand within the narrative why it had to happen, because after that, we get, what's his name? We get Crocus, otherwise known as Cutter, who has been sleeping with Chalice, who, was a woman that he had kind of the hots for in book 1, and he would sneak into her, balcony, and he was like having her restrained, covering her mouth, and like all this stuff while in the bushes. And so it's really fascinating to see that she got back with him because ends up that her husband just sucks. He's basically pimping her out, and he does not give a shit. And he's happy to tell her that he's going to kill them all, and he's just gonna let the next man, have her. So you feel really bad for Chalice, but at the same time, you sort of don't feel bad because this is what she sort of wants to do. She doesn't want her lovers to be killed, obviously, and especially not Crocus. But it's really fascinating because Crocus is going back and forth about this. And Crocus was a character I never really cared for in book 1. I thought he was a little scummy, but I thought he was, interesting. So I was sort of wondering where that was going. And when he comes in at the Phoenix Inn and we see Murillo's body outside on the carriage, and, Krupp is, depressed. Everybody's depressed, in this inn. I love that moment where Crocus says, like, he killed Murillo because of me and Chalice and, all this stuff. He knows that I'm connected, so I need to go there and, kill the slave master myself. And he shows up there and he just does his standard kind of action movie moment where he flings his 2 knives, gets him in the chest, and leaves. And then tells Chalice, and then we get a POV of Chalice where she finds out that her husband has been killed. And she has another lover who is delivering this message to her. And he's, like, really ecstatic and excited about it. And he's just, like, hungering after Chalice's reaction to it. And so she pushes down all those feelings and says, yeah, okay, thank you for the message. Please leave. And he's completely disappointed, which, good. Fuck that guy. But I really enjoyed those chapters because we finally got the escape of Hollow because no one can find him. And we finally get this kind of justice for all these slaves who have been kind of pitted against each other just for the amusement of this guy who I can't remember the name of. There are way too many names to keep track of, but I really loved all of the story arcs individually, and then of course how they converge towards the end. And there's one plot line that I really did not care for, and I realize now why, or who the POVs were that I did not care for in part one. And that had to do with the character of Namanda and Aranatha. Basically, the brothers of Anamanda Rake. I believe the brothers. I like Anduist a lot, but he doesn't really have too much to do in this book. He's kind of running errands for Anamanda Rake at Black Coral. But aside from that, I really did not care for any of them. They did not at all interest me as characters. I feel really bad saying that, but I just did not. I wanted more of Anamanda Rake, because most of the book, he's staring off into the sea, kind of getting all these plans ready for kind of countering the crippled god. Because the crippled god has a cult going on in Darujistan. That's where Hollow's parents are. They sort of just, hand off, Hollow to Snell, and that's when Snell tries to kill him, and then the parents never come back. They're all hanging out at the Fallen God, I believe, or the Dying God is who they talk about, or who they name the crippled god in Darujistan. And so Anamanda Rake knows this, and he's trying to, make a plan on how to counter this. And then everything sort of converges, and we get all the Hounds coming in, which I'm a little upset that Steven Erikson killed all of the Hounds of Shadow. I thought they were the coolest sort of creatures in the series, and especially with how powerful they are. They just completely devastate the city of Darujistan, but I really wanted more from Anamanda Rake, but I think the ending with his character and how he dies, which I'm just heartbroken that Anamanda Rake had to die. But I was listening to the 10 Very Big Books interview this morning and a little bit of yesterday, where Steven Erikson was talking about how that was a gamed moment in him and Cam's game, where Cam was the DM and Steven Erikson was playing Anamanda Rake. And they were, having a battle, and Anamanda Rake dies. And so Cam Esselmont was like, okay, I'm just going to have him be decapitated by Dragnipur, and then, he's going to be sent to the Dragnipur's realm. And I thought that was just the coolest fucking shit ever. And I realize now I've actually had a folder of fan art of the series and also of the covers that I have continuing through my computer background. And one of them is actually that moment where Anamanda Rake is standing on top of the big pile of bodies, and you see Hood's realm just, going insane. I never realized that was a spoiler for this book. I thought it was just, I don't know what I thought it was. Thankfully, I did not make any connection, but yeah, so I loved all of that. And we also get an amazing, I guess, cameo. I would say he's a side character this book, but we get Ikovian, who is back. He takes on all of the grief and, I guess, trauma of the characters in book 3 and allows the entire army to basically pass on peacefully. I think it's a Panian Doman that he does that to. And he dies as well and ascends to become the Redeemer, who is sort of like this other god who is just, being worshipped as somebody who, everyone can use to kind of relieve all of the stresses and trauma and all of this. But I loved all of that, and we also have the brother of Anamanda with him, or no, we have Seodoman, who is hanging out with Ikovian. And I love Seodoman, this book. I had no issues at all with his POV. That was actually my favorite POV in part one, was Sia Doman. It was amazing. But yeah, I could go on all day, but my voice is actually getting pretty dry. I just had lunch beforehand, so my voice is quite rattled right now. But I just love this book. This is probably my favorite one. Number two at the lowest. I just love this book, and I'm trying to think anything else I want to talk about before I end. Uh, I don't think so. If there's any questions you have and you're still watching, please submit them. But I will be starting Dust of Dreams, Book 9 of Malazan, Book of the Fallen, at some point. I think I'll start it, I guess, Tuesday. I plan on finishing Dune Messiah tomorrow. I have about half of the book left, but there's still a lot of hours left on today. Today's Sunday. So on Monday, I'll try and finish up Dune Messiah. If not, then Tuesday I'll finish it. And then I'll immediately begin Dust of Dreams. I'm so excited. I have no idea where the series is going. I assume the crippled god will be defeated. I don't know how. I don't even think he will be. I think he'll just kind of die and someone else will take the mantle, is sort of my thoughts right now. But if you're still watching, thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you think of my review. I just love this book so much, and I'm happy to talk about it more in the comments. So please comment what you think of this book, and send your questions my way, and I'll try and answer them as best as I can. Thank you all so much for watching, and please have a great rest of the day.